Hello. As y'all know, we're in the upstate, South Carolina. We just got a bunch of snow. So in the upstate of South Carolina, when we get snow, we're just not used to it and not set up for it. So it just shuts everything down. And it's a big deal for us. Unlike up north where y'all get feet of snow and it's just another day in the snow. For us, we just don't have the equipment. Anyway, so consequently, due to the ice storm we had last week and the snowstorm we got about 6 inches here where I'm at, which is pretty sure a record. So that's resulted in us, missing an episode. So I figured I'd just come out here in the snow and this bamboo grove and just do a little something. So you'll know that we're still, it's important to me to put something out every Sunday. So that's what I'm doing. It's actually this grove here is Philostachys myri is the species, and you can see on this cane here, this vine, that's kudzu. And so I use these two materials, bamboo and kudzu, and make baskets. I'll put a couple of images of the baskets I make. And then, so I'm standing at here. You can see this is it's kind of hard to see, but it's a gully. This bamboo's come in and held this ground and kept this erosion from happening over the years. I think that this area they were probably farming cotton initially. This bamboo here was probably planted in the late 20s, early 30s. But anyway, Conrad's Cave is not a podcast about bamboo and kudzu. That's my other half. Carolina Bamboo is my business. So when I'm not doing astrology and mythology and psychology, I'm doing basketry. And this grove is just in my backyard. I harvest the bamboo out of here for my baskets. Typically, I do grow bamboo as well. I have like 10 different species, but they're all nascent. The groves, they're juvenile. Nothing's really, it's going to be 5 years or so before I can start harvesting bamboo out of those. So anyway, back to Chiron's Cave. So why am I out here in this bamboo grove talking about Chiron's Cave? Well, I guess the whole thing started for me with astrology, psychological astrology. But initially, it was more the occult. What brought me to astrology was I was looking into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. John Michael Greer edited a new version of their black brick. I've heard it called like the brick because it's so big. It's like 1,000 pages long. And so I started reading that book, just looking at the occult in general. And in the Western tradition, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn's they've done the most sort of work creating the modern occult, the theosophist, and then, anthroposophy with Rudolf Steiner, who I'm reading now, looking into anyway. And then the Golden Dawn. So I started reading the book, and there's all these astrological glyphs. And I mean, I didn't know anything about astrology. This is like 2022. And I was like, oh, man, all these symbols, and like, I don't know what they mean, right? Like the Jupiter glyph. I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I know they're planets, and then the zodiac signs, like symbols, I know there's 12 of them. I didn't know anything. So I started looking into it. And that was a good solid 3 years now. I think it was late 2022 when I started with that. And I've been interested in psychology and the occult. I got interested initially when I was 18, looked at the Kabbalah, had some experiences on the astral plane, mostly lucid dreaming, kind of exploring the etheric, astral, spiritual realms, just as an Nironaut, just seeing what I could see for myself. Because at the time, I was atheist. I had become atheist. So anyway, I quickly found psychological astrology, and I had no idea that existed. And I've been into psychology since I took a psychology class in high school, and ever since then, I'm really interested in Jung, and so constantly been reading about psychology for half my life, my whole adult life. So I just kept reading about astrology and just got more and more interested, and then found psychological astrology, and wow, that's like it was a mind blowing to me that these two things came together, and then it just really clicked. What was I mean, it didn't. It clicked in a way of this was important for me. What is this? To sum up the last 3 years of astrological exploration, what is it? Well, I think its biggest strength is it's a language, and it's a language that we've been using to talk about the spiritual world since the dawn of man. Looked up before we even spoke words at the stars. And what is that? And the mystery and the just expansiveness and the untouchability, right? And the just I mean, to our ancestors, like what could be more interesting than what is that? So language like evolved, and we were probably around campfires, like pointing and talking about it. What is that? Like making stories up, and um, so I think it's true mostly in most cultures in the world that aren't like in jungles, because like in a jungle, right, you don't really see the stars, right? If you live in the jungle, you don't really have much star lore. I think there's more internal exploration. Like you see that with like ayahuasca and this entity, the big python snake that you can encounter if you take ayahuasca, which I've not done. Would love to at some point. So, but the rest of the world, that's not in the jungle, that has access to see the sky, even forested people, like, usually like in Europe, you're forested, but it's not like the jungle, right? There's still, you can still see. There's going to be places where there's openings. This language develops centered around the stars, the planets, really, which they saw as stars, right? Planets being essentially meaning the wandering stars, the wanderers, as the planets move around and everything else is fixed up there. So this language develops to talk about what all that is, and just for thousands of years. And then, the 20th century comes around after Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, you know, scientism evolves, and it's all just becomes about what we can actually physically, touch and measure with what I like to call our factoscope. Science is factoscopes, but there's beyond what we can measure. And astrology, its great strength is that it's a language to talk about these things beyond the material, which is why it works perfectly with psychology and mythology, which is essentially the ancients, our ancestors' psychology was mythology. It's all worked out in Greek myth. So Freud used Oedipus to found psychology, essentially. It was a Greek myth. So yeah, the language is its great strength. Astrology's great strength is that it gives us this language that's specifically about the spiritual world. And I've always been interested in like big T truth. And it seems to me like that's what astrology has. It's the waters that astrology lives in, the air it breathes. the fire that inspires it, and ultimately the earth that inhabits it. So it's great strength and its great usefulness is in its meaning. What that gives us language to talk about it. But then there's this whole predictive side, mundane astrology predicting what's going to happen on Earth, or psychological astrology predicting essentially these are the energies that you're going to be dealing with in your life. An imprint is so poetic, right? We're born and there's this imprint, it's a map. And regardless of whether or not you pay any attention to astrology or think it's true or nonsense or what, it is a factual map. And a nativity, a horoscope, is a reality that science can measure with a factoscope, right? I mean, it's about where are the planets with respect to the zodiac, the stars. And then that can be sidereal and literally where are the constellations, or it can be tropical, where they were 2,000 years ago and how this language developed, which is one of the reasons why tropical and sidereal, as precession of the equinoxes happens and, they break away from each other. And so now they're like 25 degrees apart. They're seemingly in disagreement. And that's a whole controversy and one that I'm interested in and have been looking at. I settle on tropical because of the language, right? The language evolved as Aries being the starting point, the spring equinox, right? Where the sun rises at the spring equinox. That fixes the zodiac. And so all of the meaning in the signs evolved from that fact, like that physical fact, right? This is where the sun rises on the spring equinox. But that changes because of precession. 1 degree every 72 years. Kind of threw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. So there's that debate, sidereal, tropical. Then the house thing. I mean, geez, how many houses? So how are you supposed to predict? Well, all these houses can't work. That they do apparently, but so then it's like, well, then that means if all of these different house systems work, then this must just be type of participation mystique. It just works because we agree to the rules of it, and because we make, reality is defined by our words essentially. And so that can be, it's amorphous, right? Like that's the whole postmodern thing. You change reality, you just change words and what they mean. And that matters to astrology because, well, astrology is a language, and that's what is so important about astrology. And that may sound so simple, study this extra language that we have that is astrology, and gives us a powerful tool to talk about the psyche and the cosmos and our connection with it. Woo? Is it woo? Is it not? I mean, the planets don't make us do anything. We're not compelled by these rocks or balls of gas, right? Not in a Newtonian, Cartesian sort of way. There is a causality out there somewhere. And so I guess it comes down to, do you want to believe there's meaning to all this? Or is it just random, deterministic, based on some cosmic explosion that no one understands why or how it happened? Like, that's a choice we got to make. And it seems to me like that's faith. You got to make that choice. Do you want to believe in meaning? Do you want to believe in purpose or not? And it seems to me like if you want to just believe, you just make it all up, and it's just like there's really no truth to it, then like you're just playing semantics with yourself, really. It's like if you're just going to believe, well, there's meaning, but I just make it all up myself. It's whatever I want it to be. That just strikes me as not true. And I think if you really listen to your heart, you can hear your heart saying, come on, you just going to make it up? Like it's a type of narcissistic hubris. The original sin in the Greek version, because like You're just making your own meaning up. That's like you're playing God, right? We're somewhere between the gods or the elementals. The elements anthropomorphized, I guess. What are they? The sylphs, undines, gnomes, and salamanders. Elementals. I guess that I'm sitting here with a bunch of gnomes. So in the astrology, I have a pretty powerful stellium in Virgo, Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, all in Virgo, all near the Imam Chali, the icy, the lower, what was beneath the earth the moment I was born. So that energy came up through the earth, cathonically. Presumably, the earth itself altered that energy, but it's earth. Virgo's already earth. So Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn had to filter up through the earth to reach me, and they were in Virgo. So I have a very strong connection to nature, and astrology supports that. That's kind of cool. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But the thing is, the more you look, the more of this kind of stuff you see in astrology. And it's the whole thing, one time's a coincidence, two times is suspicious, three times it's enemy action. In other words, something happens three times, then it's like, well, there's intention there. It's a design, there's a system at work. In astrology, you just need to pay attention. You just need to be willing to look at it. And if you're willing to look at it, you'll see over and over and over and over again how it's true. Now, how? That's the thing. It's a mystery. Well, and there again, that is a very important aspect. The mystery. It's a mystery. It's always going to be. And that has to be. That drives us nuts because we want to know. But you can know more and more and more, and you can always know more. And astrology helps us do that. It helps us see more and more and more and more and continue, like for lifetimes. You could spend your whole life doing nothing but just studying it, observing it, and never run out of things to look at and learn. That speaks to the mystery. And so that seems to me like another element of this language. It's a mystery language. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure all this out. 3 years in, I've read at least 100 books on just astrology. It's a very astrologer thing to do. It's just read books, right? But I also look at the stars. I look at the planets. I track the moon. I pay attention to the physical reality of it because that's where it's like you can't ignore that. Like if we're just going to do computers, it's like it still works, but you're missing something. The initial impulse, the human creature of the earth impulse to be in awe of the mystery of life and the heavens. So if you've made it this far of me yammering on in this bamboo grove in the snow with my dear friends, Bamboo and Kudzu, Chiron's Cave is looking for guests. So if you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to yammer on about this stuff with us on Chiron's Cave, reach out. We have an email. I think it's Chiron's Cave Podcast. I'll put it up on the screen. I've not ever gotten an email. My wife set it up for me. But yeah, this is on TikTok, YouTube. You can go to the YouTube channel, Chiron's Cave, and comment if you just, or if the email doesn't work when I'm, because like I say, I've not ever used it. I don't. Presumably it'll work and notify me, but and tell us you want to be on the show, or you want to hear us talk about whatever you're interested and have questions. But we're looking for people to come on the show to be guests. So for Chiron's Cave to exist, there has to be an other to talk to. And personally, I'm not interested in myself and listening to podcasts of just for people talking. I was a truck driver for 6 years and spent a lot of time listening to podcasts, and you can't just pull that off. Like nobody wants to just listen to one person talk. So, you know, my apologies for this, but I got to put something out there today. I don't want to miss an episode. So that's where we are. So yeah. Um, so that's that. I'm gonna stop yammering on.